Good morning, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express our warmest welcome to the second of the ITS Hong Kong 2022 technical webinar series today. I'm your host for today's afternoon's webinar. For those who have been long-standing members and supporters of ITS HK, you would know that ITS HK has for over many years been organizing regular technical seminars, forums, and visits with the objective of providing a professional platform for members of the ITS industry to share their expertise and experience, bringing benefits to the local and regional developments of ITS. Our events today will be around an hour, with around 45 minutes for our guest speakers' presentation and around 15 minutes for the Q&A session. Today, we are delighted to feature one of our corporate members, Capsh, to speak to us on the topic of mobility data platform of a safer, greener, and more efficient urban traffic infrastructure. With us today is Mr. Daniel Hoyne, Head of Solution Consulting, Asia Pacific of Capsh Traffic Corp. And together with Daniel is Mr. Dalian Fernandez, Solution Consultant Traffic of Capsh Traffic Corp. Before we start, may I request all audience to mute their microphones so that we can minimize any interruption to the presentations. Questions are more than welcome. Please type your questions to the speakers in the chat box. We will be reading them out to the speakers at the later part of the event for their feedback and discussion. Now I will hand over the floor to Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. As has already been established, my name is Daniel Hoyne. I am the one on the left, obviously, and joining me today is Mr. Dylan Fernandez, and we're pleased to talk to you today about the Capsh Mobility Data Platform. Now, many people on the call will be familiar with Capsh, but in case you're not, I'm going to do a very brief history because I know we only have 45 minutes today and we have a lot to get through. So very briefly, Capsh is over 130 years old, and our foundations were in the late 19th century, where we started with creating telegraph and telephone devices, and then moving through the years into radio frequency and radio devices and capacitor manufacturing, and then the first automatic telephone exchange in 1948. Then to more advanced telephony devices with low noise dialing, and into the 1970s, where we implemented train radio, analog train radio for the Austrian railway network across the entire country. And then in the early 2000s, that's when Capsh's great history of working in the tolling industry began. And in 2016, in Australia, we implemented the world's first multi-lane free flow tolling environment. And as we move forward into the modern day, Capsh is a well-known and well-established ITS provider globally, and we are in 50 countries, over 50 countries around the world, and we are very proud of this. Very, very quickly here too, it's important that when you hear from a company like Capsh, we're not just presenting our technology, we're presenting ourselves as a company. And by this end, we like to share our values, and you can see those values on the screen, and our mission statement and our vision statement because that describes who we are and what we do and how we do it. And our vision there is very clear, a challenging the limits of mobility for a healthy world without congestion. So that is a very brief snapshot of CAPSH. But today we're here to talk about the mobility data platform. And this is a key element of the CAPSH urban mobility portfolio and suite of tools within. And the mobility data platform is really about providing decision-making intelligence to road operators and to governments and policymakers to make informed decisions that will benefit the transport ecosystem within their countries and their area of influence. Now, what we see here is an overview of, it may look like a very busy slide, but what we see here is an overview of, in the middle, you can see our mobility data platform. And we'll go into a deep dive in some of the capabilities and functionalities of the mobility data platform. But in order to really set the context of the power of the mobility data platform, I'm going to go through one slide each on the CAPSH urban mobility portfolio, because that really shows how powerful and how valuable the insights that the mobility data platform can provide. Starting with our EcoTraffics platform, which is a dynamic urban traffic management. It's an advanced traffic management system, and it brings together all of the elements and pieces of the puzzle within the urban and high-speed environment that a city will operate. And it brings it onto a single screen or a single pane of glass and enables the road operator to have complete situational awareness of everything that's going on their network. And you can see there that includes public transport, connected vehicles, traffic management, smart intersections, corridor management, air quality and control, as well as in a safe environment in terms of safety and security of the platform itself. Now, this is important to note, because when we see later my colleague, Mr. Fernandez, go through the capability of the mobility data platform, it's important to note that it takes all the inputs from the EcoTraffics platform. Next up is the piece of the puzzle that is the Connected Mobility Control Center, or our CMCC. And this is our connected vehicle platform, which is a cloud-based, or it can be on-premises, software suite, which manages and monitors the connected vehicle environment and enables the direct communication with connected road users. And some of the scenarios that you're looking on the screen there is public transport talking to other vehicles, emergency services and first responders talking to the traffic lights to get priority. And we also have left turn, or depending on what part of the world you're in, right turn assist that will enable more effective and efficient traffic flow and movements, reducing the stop-start nature of congestion and therefore the emissions that are associated with that type of driving. And in the bottom corner, you can see speed advice, and it says 42 seconds for green. So that's our green wave capability that is enabled within the CMCC. All of this goes into being able to create a future-ready state of a city when it comes to multimodal integration. Next up, I'm going to show you another element of our mobility suite, and this is a video and this is one of the intersections that we have here in Melbourne. And this is our deep learning versatile platform, which is video-based artificial intelligence. And this I'm going to play, and I'm going to press play, and I'm also going to speak over the top. So if anyone, I know we're saving questions to end, but if there's any questions on anything that I've said at the moment, please do put in the chat. And if it's relevant to what I'm saying, I'll try and get to it. So what we see here is the deep learning versatile platform at an intersection in Melbourne, looking at the vehicles passing through and assisting with our traffic management system, our traffic control system, which is SCATS, and supplementing that data by giving real-time info to the traffic control system and influencing things like a minimization of congestion and looking at the congestion levels through the lens of an ordinary camera, one that's just quite actually off the shelf. And this is really useful in Melbourne and has been rolled out across Europe as well. When it comes to things like queue length detection and reduction of congestion, as well as there has been examples of pedestrians not paying attention to the crossing light, but looking down at their phones. And when a connected vehicle context, an alert through this system can be sent to a connected vehicle for safety. The ability of this, all the data that is collected by the deep learning versatile platform is able to be fed into our mobility data platform. So the richness of data that we see that is being collected on the screen is able to then be turned into future insights through the means that Mr. Fernandez will show us in a moment. The cities that have implemented this use this for the things that I've mentioned already, which include the stop line detection or the queue length detection, and for bus priority also. And one of the scenarios that we'll see later on is how this data can be used in a safety context for ensuring that there is a safe environment for road users and transport users across the entire ecosystem. I'm going to go to the next slide now. So hopefully that's given an overview of this environment here, where I've talked about on the side here, the deep learning versatile platform, which can take the floating car data, the video stream data, and other data from directly into the MDP. We've also got from our traffic management platforms up here, our EcoTraffics and DINAC, which are the situational awareness platform that we saw at the start, and then the connected vehicle platform as well. And all of those are able to send data and send and plug the data into our mobility data platform. Now, the mobility data platform has two elements to it, and it's the mobility data hub and the mobility data insights. And the hub we use to describe the inputs such as data, transportation, data, and APIs. So data that comes from the Department of Transport here in Victoria is used into the one of the projects that we've got working here, which is called the CAPS Intelligent Corridor. Can also take the sensor data inputs such as environmental sensors, other road-based sensors, Bluetooth, LiDAR, whatever a city might already have. That data can be stored and processed, as well as the connected vehicle data as well with the connected ITS. And all of this is really important when we get to the demo in a moment, where we see the insights that can come from overlaying data and turning it into something more valuable. Because on its own, data is useful, but not necessarily valuable. It's when it's turned into insight is when it becomes valuable and actionable for things like policymakers and road operators and governments. The second part of the mobility data platform there is really what we're going to drill down on in a moment, with the performance measurements, the detailed analysis, the travel time, anomaly, and prediction. And we'll talk a bit about as well the origin, destination analysis and matrices. And that gives a city the ability to make informed decisions about what amount of, say, spend or infrastructure upgrade needs to go into certain routes and strategic routes, and where the best use of funding and resources might want to be focused to get the biggest amount of benefit for the citizens of that government. Spoken a little bit about the platform and the insights. This is just showing some examples of some of the types of companies that we've worked with of bringing in data into the platform, and this is globally. I think it's important to note on this lower section here is that this is an expandable and scalable platform. So it can be used for a small single intersection view, or it can be used on a network view as well to provide network-wide insights. One of the things that we're most proud of is that it's customizable through configuration, and that we can use the modular microservices to build essentially whatever anything a city would need. Now, the three views that I'm going to show you here are really when we look at the potential use and capability and decision support system view for each part of, say, a road operator or a government. Largely, we can group it into, say, operators who are essentially making those real-time decisions, those split-second decisions on the sitting at the control panel and influencing the outcome of, say, a response to a planned or unplanned event. And that's where we, the added insight from MDP supports the decision support systems and automation. Then it comes to things like to the next level, where you've got planners, engineers, and managers that really are the decision makers. And that's why they're in the center here, because they're making the decisions for the future that are going to impact the city for years to come. And having worked in the Department of Transport here in Victoria and working with federal agencies as well, for over 15 years, I know the benefit of and the need of having the right information to make the right decisions, and the ramifications of having wrong data when making decisions. And so that's what is one of the driving forces around the mobility data platform, is providing the right decision-making capability for any city globally. And then when we look at the last column there, it's analysts, officers, and developers who are enacting a lot of the policy rules and policy decisions and legislation decisions and outcomes when it comes to the systems and applications. And that's where the mobility data platform forms a key part of that. Now, we've talked enough about what it is and what it looks like and what it does. I think we should have a look and get into some some actual examples. I'm going to hand over to my colleague. I will still control the screen here as I am sharing my own screen. So Dylan may ask me at some points to move to the next slide and to click along. So he'll hear him ask me that. But I'm looking forward to any questions at the end of this. And thank you for your attention so far. Over to you, Dylan.
Thank you, Daniel. And hello, everyone. I'd like to just start off by saying, just going back a bit to those roles that Daniel had mentioned, and just really emphasizing how today it is possible to generate, store, and share enormous amounts of data. This is made possible by, of course, three factors: access to the internet, almost anywhere, regardless of location, storage costs being at an all-time low, and technological capabilities, that have skyrocketed. And you have things like GPS, Bluetooth, accelerometers, and all of these act as sources of data. Never before has so much timely information on people, events, vehicles been so quickly and readily available at our disposal, right? And Dan touched upon a few of those use cases in the previous slides. This growth in data has triggered vast opportunity, particularly for the transport industry. And often, traffic agencies today are implementing measures to enable easier, safer, and more enjoyable transport experiences. Often, however, these come with competing priorities, and I'll take an example of that in the next slide. But in the face of these current challenges, there are questions to answer, decisions to make, and outcomes to deliver. To illustrate the emphasis of data insights, there are 2 points I'd like to present you all with. The first is the pie chart that you see in front of you, is that unfortunately, it takes a fatal accident or an incident to trigger change. And according to the latest statistics by the Hong Kong Traffic Department, only 1% of all of the incidents that occur are fatal. The second point I'd like to illustrate, and Dan, if you could bring up the 2 graphs when you hit your arrow key. So what I'll do, ladies and gents, is I'll quickly share my screen just in case we might be having some technical difficulties.
Good idea, Dylan. It seems to have wanted to stay on my slides because it must like my voice. So you go ahead and share your screen.
No worries, no worries.
Thank you for your patience with this, ladies and gentlemen.
If only we had elevator music right about now, is what I had in mind. But
there we go.
Could you confirm for me, Dan, that you're able to see my screen? Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Yes. So this pie chart was to illustrate the point that it takes a really serious incident to trigger change. The second point I'd like to illustrate in these 2 graphs in front of you is the fact that there are often a fixed amount of resources and funds available, often to meet competing priorities. And on the 2 graphs on your right, I've used age as an underlying factor to show how it is often a younger demographic that are at higher risk to an incident behind the wheel or while driving a vehicle. While on the chart that is below, on the right again, it is older people or an older demographic that are significantly impacted in terms of pedestrian casualties. Often with these competing priorities and real world situations present themselves in this manner, the challenge is, how do we make our roadways safer for everybody? And this is where insights allow effective targeting of finite resources by understanding where, how, and why accidents occur. And so over the next few slides, I'd like to highlight three broad capabilities of MVP, which is our mobility data platform. Keep in mind, this is only scratching the surface of what the platform can do and is a high-level overview of the product. So first off, I'd like to show you some of the operational and dashboarding capabilities. So you're about to see an example of one of these dashboards, and it contains 3 years of data from the city of Madrid in Spain over the years 2019 to 2021. And as I play the video, I will show you how you can bring up various different widgets, dashboards. You can filter by data. So as an operator, if I'm interested in noting incidents involving pedestrians, I can filter by that. I can focus on lists that emphasize either my area or my domain for which I'm responsible for. And what's unique about this is you're segmenting the same data in real time to show you and give you an accurate picture of what you'd like to see or focus on. Given the amount of data, or depending on the amount of data you have, and in this example, I can even see for a certain incident, who was the driver, who was the pedestrian, their ages, etc. And just coming out of that map real quick, I also wanted to show you that it is also possible to bring this into satellite view. And in this case, this is Madrid International Airport that you see. Notice the airplanes on the right. And the blue dots are essentially the places or locations where incidents have occurred at Madrid Airport. Now, similarly, traffic agencies that are responsible for a certain district can filter down to a specific street. And again, this is an example where it shows the highest risk of pedestrians. This helps them to understand the root cause of incident occurrences. In this case, on a specific street, notice how 4 incidents involving pedestrians are all in close proximity to one another. Now, taking a closer look at this high-risk zone, the team of individuals, or the traffic agency here in the city of Madrid, discovered that despite there being and if you follow my mouse pointer, despite there being a pedestrian crossing up at the top left, a lot of the times they discovered people in their rush, say to get to work, were trying to cross the street at this point, this high-risk zone. And that was because there was a subway with its entrance facing away from that pedestrian intersection. In addition to these visual widgets like maps, charts, graphs, Daniel mentioned earlier about original destination matrices. And this is a concept that a lot of us in the transport industry are familiar with. In order to show you, as an example, the places that have the highest number of trips passing by, say, a suburb, a street, and again, you can segment that data as you'd like to highlight information that is important to you. Origin destination information can be displayed using maps, but yes, in addition to that, graphs, trees, tables, and heat maps that help track demand, understand utilization, and as a traffic agency, as an operator, effectively utilize resources as required. So far we've seen how the mobility data platform lets you filter, segment, and visualize data. And all of this in a format that is easy to understand for your operators. In addition to visual insights, there are many other ways to tap into the potential of your data. And this is the second most crucial bit or functionality of the mobility data platform: generating insights, recognizing trends. So let me take some examples and run you through some use cases or some previous work and study that we've done using this platform, right? Now, research indicates that there is a strong correlation between the consumption of alcohol and crashes with fixed objects at the side of the road. About 20% of road fatalities result from a vehicle that leaves a roadway and hits a fixed object. Similar trends were observed with the data that we had on hand for the city of Madrid as well. In general, if you look at the total number of incidents, weekends appear to be safer than weekdays. But if we focus on crashes with fixed objects, Friday nights and Saturday nights, or rather weekends at night or in the dark, have a higher number of crashes with fixed objects. Another really useful tool is looking at the same data, but in two different situations. So what we did here, this is a screenshot of how Madrid's transport agency compared the number of incidents from the year 2020 on your right to the year 2021 on your left as Madrid came out of lockdown. So let me draw your attention to that middle table that's on your screen. Interestingly, notice how as Madrid exited the pandemic, the total number of incidents increased by 9%. Logically speaking, that makes sense. Counterintuitively, however, the number of crashes involving pedestrians, your vulnerable road users, that decreased by 36%. I touched upon pattern recognition. Key to generating insights and understanding or predicting future behavior is in tracking observed behavior and classifying them as trends and patterns. You see, patterns can be observed in speed, vehicle density, traffic flow, travel time. And on this chart, notice how traffic speed patterns in the year 2019 and 2021 in the green and blue colors, they nearly match one another. This was before and after lockdowns. While those in 2020, that is, while Madrid was in lockdown, those speeds reached near free flow levels. Another common way to see speed patterns is via heat maps. This screenshot shows incidents in the month of October for a roadway named the M30, once again in the city of Madrid. The green color indicates normal expected speeds that have been detected, and any reduction in the speed has been shown in colors from yellow all the way down to orange, red, and purple, indicating deviations from expected behavior or the presence of an incident, more likely. The box at the top shows you incidents that have occurred in the past along this roadway. So let me just draw your attention to these two boxes encircled in red. So normally we see that there is a peak in the mornings as well as in the evenings. That is indicated by this drop in speed during those times. One particular date that stands out is the 8th of October. And when you click on it, the box at the top changes in real time. And in this case, it shows you that the drop in speed was due to a rear end crash in the late afternoon. That is shown in the box at the top. And that is also the reason for why the speeds dropped all the way down to purple. Finally, again, thus far we've seen how the mobility data platform helps you to visualize data. You've seen how it enables traffic operators and agencies to recognize patterns, generate insights, and these patterns of behavior can generate insights using machine learning algorithms. These help to enhance proactive responses to potential incidents in the future. Traffic tends to follow a pattern. This pattern gets disrupted when an incident occurs. Machine learning can recognize, classify, and group observed behavior into patterns for speed, traffic volume, or travel time. On the screen in front of you is an example of how our system has identified 3 very different, very specific speed patterns. Right? These are patterns for how the speed varies through the month of December. Notice how weekends and weekdays generally have different colors, different differing patterns of speed. And here, when I've clicked on a certain day of this month, the system is comparing anticipated traffic patterns that have been assigned by the system in orange to actual data that has been collected for that day. Using patterns observed in the past, the mobility data platform can predict likely behavior in the future. In this snapshot, based on prior observed trends, the data platform predicts 3 unique color-coded patterns for speed and traffic flow. You can see this in the table at the top and their corresponding graphs in the middle. Also, at the bottom is a forecast, a predicted speed behavior in the future, say over the next 10 days. And these have been classified or color-coded in 15-minute intervals. Now, how does this help you as a traffic operator or an agency, right? These predictions, they enable proactive responses to future events. The mobility data platform has risk prediction capabilities. What you see on your screen was a proof of concept that we showcased in the city of Madrid. Using machine learning algorithms, the system recognizes high-risk segments along a specific road network. Here, we used historical records of crashes and traffic volumes along the same M30 highway in the city of Madrid. And what you see are 3 things. 1 is an overall risk of incidents occurring in that specific day. Below that, you will notice the blue bar chart, which shows you by the hour how the risk varies. What are the riskiest times during a specific day? And 3, displaying the most risky segments or segments of this road that have observed the largest number of incidents in the past. Anomalies in traffic behavior occur with significant deviations from expected values, as I'd alluded to earlier. Specific anomaly detection models are trained to provide contextual thresholds, that is, a specific threshold for a certain segment of roadway, taking into account each respective particular case for data variability and reducing false positives. The goal is to enable you as the operator, as the data scientist, as the agency, to provide and generate valuable information particularly be able to proactively respond to unexpected situations in the future. So here's an example of this. An example of anomaly detection is where we took the calculated or the current travel times along a certain road network and compared that to thresholds, or compared that to what the expected travel time was, and highlighted in green what was within those threshold boundaries, and in red what strayed beyond those boundaries, or what went beyond those that expected behavior. I'll now pass it along back to you, Dan, to take us through the spotlights.
Thank you, Dylan. And this is the last slide in our presentation this evening or this afternoon. And this is just showing the projects and the deployment around the globe of the mobility data platform. And as you can see there, there is some key projects that have been rolled out and that are using the mobility data platform for what we saw today, and much more, when as Dylan mentioned, that it's really just scratching the surface of some of the capabilities that we've shown you today. I wanted to give I guess a high level view of some of the key elements that cities can benefit from using the mobility data platform. And we are more than happy to take questions now, but also in the future, if there was the need to, or the desire from anyone on the call this afternoon to go through more of the mobility data platform, or the deep learning versatile platform, or the connected mobility control center, or our eco-traffic platform, we'd be more than happy to do that as well. On the screen there, my contact details, my email. So if you're interested to reach out to us for any of what you saw today, then please do so. Also, visit capsh.net to have a look at a listing of all of our projects around the globe, both in our high speed and urban mobility context. And happy to take any questions that anyone on the call has at the moment. I haven't, let me just check the chat to see if there's anything in there. There's one there that I'll look at now. Yes, very good question. So Madrid, this was done to showcase to the city of Madrid the capability of the MDP, and has been presented to them as an option for them to gain insights from their data. So the really interesting thing about this was all the data was provided via an open data portal. And then we've taken that and added the insights and the value to the information that was essentially just sitting there and not being utilized. And what, as Dylan has already showed you today, turn that into actionable, intelligent data that can then go ahead and bring outcomes, for safety outcomes for the citizens of Madrid.
Thanks, Dan. And yes, to answer your question, Hamlin, and I hope, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. There are a lot of elements that we have implemented in Madrid, and while we're on the topic of scratching the surface of what this platform can do, there's a whole lot more that is in the pipe for this specific city, and hence I brought out the topic about what we did in a certain proof of concept at a specific stage as well. So yeah, that's an ongoing dialogue with the city. Sorry, I hope that answers your question though.
Happy to take any more questions. If there's none that that come over the either the chat or verbally, as I mentioned, happy to take those via email, via ITS Hong Kong, or through direct contact with myself or Martin Lee or Jana, who's also on the call with us this afternoon.
Thank you once again to Daniel and David for the informative presentation on this exciting topic. I'm sure many of So after this webinar, we'll send in the extracts and of this option presentation with the context details of CAPTCHA. So you may directly approach them afterwards through further questions. We'll also be emailing the CPD certificates for this event. Now comes to the end of today's webinar. Please stay tuned to our emails and communication later on for further details of the next event. In the meantime, should you have any inquiries, please contact ITSHK via email at itsadmin@itshk.org. Thank you very much, and we wish to see you soon in our upcoming events. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.